Welcome everybody to another episode of the GATaca Cypher. It's been a couple of weeks, but we're back live on this YouTube thing. And today we are going to be talking about science and some things that are currently going on that happened recently. That actually Evil, my co-host, brought to my attention. But before we go into that, let me introduce this week's co-host. We got my man Greydon Square,
Yo.
live from GU, the GU captain, and my man Gifted Anomaly, another talented GU representative.
Definitely a lieutenant.
And it's very much so apropos that they're both on this podcast because they're the two most sciencey motherfuckers I know. And I would probably not be doing a whole lot of the talking in this podcast because science isn't my forte, but these three guys, they got it locked down. So basically, I guess we'll start off with what the Chinese achieved this week with the fusion reactor. It's
I'm probably most excited about that.
Really groundbreaking stuff from what I was reading. So what's up with that, Evo?
Well, I mean, it's an experimental fusion reactor. It was built by the Chinese Academy of Science. It hit a major milestone, basically. It maintained a plasma pulse for a record of 102 seconds, a temperature of 15 million degrees. That's like,
damn.
I think it's like 3 times hotter than the core of the sun. But
that's insane.
That's crazy.
And interestingly enough, in order for it to sustain it for an achievable, because you want a runaway reaction in order to achieve true fusion, with really you're only putting in 1/10, or I think it's 1/100th of 1 millionth of the total energy output that of water. So say for instance you're getting theoretically thousands of kilowatts out of it. You could put a cup of water as far as energy is concerned and get that much output. So it's an amazing discovery, and there's also one looking for tokamaks and the one in France it's another reactor. So this is just like the tip of the iceberg. Now that they have realized that, hey, this thing can be done, and it's based on Max Planck's Institute for Plasma Physics. I mean, this has such far-reaching implications. It fucking make my head spin. I honestly thought that the last 10 years they had like hit a wall, but yeah, this is outstanding. I'm not gonna talk too much about
it. Does this have anything to do with the cooling spots in the reactor from the magnetic fields? Does this have something to do with them overcoming that?
It was both the cooling spots and also dead zones in the actual reactor. Because the reactor has such a small diameter relative to the other reactors, it's like 3.7 meters or something like that, and other ones were somewhere in the 12 diameter range. They thought it was a size difference, and they weren't getting the energy output, and they weren't getting the heat that they thought they should get. And so yeah, it was both trying to figure out the correct ratio of trying to get enough heat in this reactor versus, I guess in their case, what's the easiest way to explain this? Keeping the magnets at a certain distance, positioning the magnets and getting the magnets to both react well with the reaction, and making sure that they weren't dealing with a size difference versus a material difference. They thought, well, maybe we're using the wrong materials, maybe they're too reflective, maybe there's a control that we're overlooking, something like that. But I mean, they literally had it pulsing as opposed to like a continuous magnetic, I guess, God, I'm trying to say it so I don't sound too much like a nerd. Basically, the superconductors got to the right temperature and the right time and the right ratio, and they overcame that barrier. So this is fucking amazing, and it was such a simple fix.
Okay, hold it right there. So now, for all the laymen out there, such as myself, what does that mean, and also what implications are there for how can that be applied?
This means one thing and one thing only for everybody that is sitting in front of this in their computer. This means abundant free energy. Abundant free energy. This means no more, for the most part, fossil fuels. No more coal. I mean, we can obviously still use solar power and things of that nature, but this is a new foundation, or the start of a new foundation for abundant free energy. However, I mean, never mind the political implications and all that. We're talking about a way that we could possibly initiate space travel, over very long
Exactly.
periods of time. I mean, we're talking, thousands of years. You can put yourself in stasis, cryogenically freeze, just whatever, and know that the reactors in that ship are going to last indefinitely.
And I know, Gary, the last time you were out here, we had discussions about something similar. So I know you said you weren't too familiar with what was going on with that particular thing. Now that you heard about it, what does this mean to you? Because I know you're really knowledgeable on this type of stuff. So what do you have to say about that?
I mean, to me, it's another step forward to like you said, to free energy, basically what a fusion reactor is harnessing the power of a star, like you're
Mhm.
making a small star.
Mhm.
So
That's crazy.
That's incredible. I mean, you're
So
putting.
there's a lot of things you could do with it. Like he said, you could stasis. Hell, if you want to go super analog, just make generational ships. You have reactors that are gonna
Mhm.
last, and they're gonna put out
Mhm.
a ton of power. So
Yeah. So as
Right,
soon as
right.
the
opens the
materials
door for a whole
that
bunch of things
so
to
say
do.
for instance you have a spaceship that will over time break down, you could literally take that same reactor out and put it into another spaceship and it'll work just like it was day one. It's
Wow,
amazing.
that's
Yeah. I mean,
amazing.
magnets and superconductors, man. I mean, and these little thin ribbons of plasma and just has a runaway reaction. But yeah, it's fucking incredible, dude.
You know what's funny is I hadn't heard. I mean, I had heard the story from a headline perspective, but I hadn't heard the details about the story.
Yeah.
But I just think it's kind of cool that with the amount of bad press nuclear reactors have gotten in the last 5 years, and some of
Yeah.
just in human, just in our history in general, uh, it's nice to see some positive reactor news. It's
Hmm.
nice to see like a good breakthrough that we kind of needed around this point.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll be honest, it wasn't something that came across my desk until I heard it from you guys. But it's nice to know that this is from a reactor perspective. It's like, oh man, I don't want any more bad news. I don't want any more bad news.
And trying to explain the difference between fission and fusion with someone
I could,
is a
I
little
could.
bit
So
headachy,
split,
you know.
fission is splitting the atom.
That's
Fusion
right.
is putting them together. You
Put them together.
smash them together.
Yeah,
That's the
fusing or
that's
or,
the
or
difference.
fission. I, I
So
I would also
fusion
say like
puts out way more energy.
Gary, I have a question for you, man. Since I guess we'll start a round robin here. What do you think the geopolitical implications are for something of this magnitude? I mean, because you figure things like OPEC, which is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, the giant on this planet as far as energy consumption and energy output is concerned. What do you think the geopolitical implications of that are? I mean, because a lot of nations on this planet have staked their claim and their fortunes based solely upon fossil fuels.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you, man. Like I think it's a game changer.
Yeah,
Like
it is.
it's one of those you don't know who's gonna come to the top once that
Mm-hmm.
game starts going.
Yeah, I
Whoever
mean,
gets the
because
resources at the right time. Like,
yeah,
But
I mean,
don't expect a massive change overnight, because there's a huge
yeah,
industry
no,
built up on fossil fuel and the oil industry and all of that stuff. I
exactly.
mean, they're not going to give that up without a fight, because there are billions
Yeah,
upon billions of dollars being made off the backs of oil and the backs of just the oil industry. So while that may be a profound discovery and breakthrough for science as it pertains to energy and proof of concept and all that stuff, I wouldn't expect it to be implemented so that people have to get to pay less on their
yeah,
phone bills. I don't see
yeah, that's
that
the
happening.
first thing I thought of when you were telling me how it could be applied. Like these oil companies are gonna push back so
they're gonna try
fucking
to
hard.
monetize it.
No, and the thing is it could be applied in that way to,
Right.
to benefit humankind. But the reality is humans are so disjointed that they can't unify long enough to have a common voice to say, hey, this is what we want. It's very rare that that happens.
Right.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, because war is profitable, strife is profitable, and moreover, having resources, finite resources, is profitable. So you take all those things together and you try to wipe those off of the table, and you're looking at possibly some sort of war. I mean, just over the technology.
Well, I
You
think the
know.
Ferengi. I think the Ferengi had a rule of acquisition somewhere in the 30s. It was war is good for business, and I think peace is good for business, which follows
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it is.
So
Yeah. I
I think
mean,
34 or 35, if I'm not mistaken.
it is. I would also say like the one thing I can't wait to see is like how they apply this, because you can actually weaponize something of this magnitude. I
Ooh.
mean, you're talking about harnessing the power of a sun, millions and millions of degrees. Because if you made this an applicable size, Even if it's
we
the size of a building.
They've already kind of done that with the
Yeah, they kind of
hydrogen.
have, yeah.
Like those are basically fusion bombs.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hydrogen bombs, and not only that, though, but you're talking about being able not just weaponize it, but putting it into a smaller sort of space as well. So you're Jesus. I mean, the implications of that is insane. I mean, you could vaporize an entire country, without any fallout, honestly, because you're just talking about pure
And
energy output.
and,
But
and knowing humans, they'll somehow apply it to porno.
oh, there's gonna be some fusion porn. You think it's gonna be some fusion porn?
Fusion porn. I don't know how that would work, but somebody
With
somewhere is trying to figure it out right now. I'm sure.
with the energy of fusion, you could really make holograms a reality. Now think
Oh,
about
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Supercomputers, holograms.
I mean,
Augmented reality. I know
and with
that's
that, you could take your consciousness at some point and put it inside of a computer long after you're dead.
Well,
Well,
shit, I'm not
yeah,
even gonna get into the philosophical and metaphysical problems
just
with
saying-
all of that.
I'm just saying. I was saying porn in holograms.
Yeah.
Which are all two very good reasons to push forward with that.
Yeah. Absolutely. It would be no
Very
more
interesting.
wars. We'd all just be sitting back like, yeah, we're good.
Just think of it like in terms of gaming, like having a PC that you don't need to plug in, ever, or a console that just can sit in your car, or it can sit at work, it can sit in your backpack. Although the energy output, the heat output would be out fantastically high, but
Right.
I mean, if you're talking about something that can contain that sort of heat, I mean, that'd be fucking awesome.
But what about even, like, how many homeless people could be saved with something like that? I mean,
Yeah, but the thing about it is in order to truly unlock the potential of a lot of these technologies, our societal infrastructure has to change. Yeah, there needs to be a complete change. Because otherwise, we're only looking at this as like theoretically what it could do, not practically what it could do. Because we know practically what it could do. But no one is ever going to take that
practically is
approach.
fucking depressing. I'm gonna be honest with you.
So,
It's really depressing.
but it is an outstanding breakthrough nonetheless, and I'm pretty excited.
It is. I wanted to get you guys' opinion on the gravitational waves. I guess that's the second part. This I was more. I was excited about the fusion part, but this is really interesting too. We were talking about this when I was at work today, and people couldn't quite grasp what it means as far as Einstein, as far as studying black holes. I mean, it really. As far as Stephen Hawking and his ideas.
I was going to say, the black hole wars got reignited, basically.
Yeah,
and it's been peer-reviewed and verified. Is that not correct?
Yeah.
And as far as I know, the scales have tipped in Einstein's favor again. I mean,
well, this is why I feel like I was so excited about this story. Not necessarily because of the discovery, which is exciting, but there's really no. Let's face it. I mean, there's no real practical applications we're getting here from observing this. But what I love about it really is the fact that Einstein is still putting points on the board, dog. 100 years later, dog, he's just like another one.
from fucking deep.
Dog. And it's crazy because that's the power of science. That's the power of legacy. That's why we do what we do. So that when I'm long dead and gone, somebody can look at my work and be like, oh, damn, we might have missed that.
Again, shit.
We might have missed that one too. Yeah. So I just feel like it was a good moment to allow people to understand, like, hey, this science thing, you can leave your mark on history in a way that you can't really do with pop, sports, fucking, other
anything
kind
else.
of frivolous ways of fame. If you make a discovery in science and human history, you're still putting points on the board, like a Newton, like an Einstein, like a Feynman, whoever. Like, people really respect that, man, and that was the biggest thing I took from the whole discovery. I like the press that it got. I felt like it finally got the press of a scientific discovery that a scientific discovery hadn't had since we, cracked the genome.
Yeah, 75 years. And the crazy part about this, it's like twofold for me. One, it brings credence and it brings validation to not just one person's life's work, but three. There are three generations and multiple labs, the LEGO labs around the world that have collaborated on this effort for years and have found small, tiny discoveries, but nothing of this magnitude. And it kind of brings credence to all that, to all the naysayers that go, oh, you lab rats just sit behind a computer, or you just sit behind a telescope, microscope, and you just watch space. You're talking about two black holes that have collided and have rippled space-time. That's fucking amazing. With an energy output never seen anywhere else in the universe, dude.
Right.
I mean, even if you don't know anything about science, if I say that sentence to you, you automatically go, "What the fuck does that mean?" It's amazing, dude. And
Well, there's not a statement in black hole physics you couldn't say that about, though.
that's true.
It's like, name something in black hole physics or nuclear physics or particle physics where you could just say that and somebody's gonna be like, yo, what the fuck?
The fuck does that even mean?
Yeah, not to take away from your point, because that's a great point.
No.
It was a bittersweet moment for me.
What's that?
Because it nullified one of my bars that I just wrote.
Oh, I know. I hate when that happens,
That's what science is about, though.
But listen, what I love about you and I love about the shit that we do is that that's the great thing about science. If the data doesn't support what we say, we have to acknowledge and retract what we say, or we have to make the change.
Yeah.
You can't say that about most people.
You can't ignore reality to fit your idea of it. It is what it is, and it's pretty amazing because I was having this argument a few months ago with one of my friends, and we were talking about physics, and he brought up, he was like, well, how can Einstein have all these ideas of general relativity and black holes and a lot of things are based on that when he was wrong about such a large overarching theory? I said, well, he wasn't wrong.
I hate that.
I said wrong is subjective when it comes to something that you can't observe, dude. So we don't know that. Yeah. And I'm like, and first of all, you have to have like a questioning attitude, but it doesn't mean you got to be wrong, and kind of pointing your finger at somebody. I said just because Stephen Hawking is extremely intelligent and well versed on something, he can't observe it either.
Yeah, and the idea that very, very smart people can't be wrong is one of the stupidest assertions that to me exists, because it's like, how do you think they learn what they learn? By being wrong more times than you'll ever be comfortable with, coward. So I don't understand this whole. Yeah, it's like, in order for you to be a scientist or in any type of learning institution, you have to accept that you're going to be proven wrong, or your ideas are going to constantly be challenged every day, all day, for the rest of that institution's existence. And it's like, you accept that. That's a part of your cultures, to be questioned and to open to the idea of being wrong. And the idea that people walk around and think that is somehow a bad thing.
Right. And it's crazy. I'm sitting in a lab and I'm talking to a geneticist. She's from China, and we're having this deep philosophical conversation. And she stops because I kind of made a point. And I was like, look, I said, and this is actually a meme, like a science meme online right now. He's like, a normal person gets electrocuted, and he goes, holy shit, I should probably never do that again. A scientist gets electrocuted, and he goes, I wonder if I do that, will I get electrocuted every single time? You know what I mean? So, that's the difference between a normal person and they're willing to fuck up to prove their hypothesis or to prove themselves wrong. And that's what you live for, to prove that I'm wrong, to prove and find the basis of reality. And that's what physics is. It is the material that everything, you, me, everything is made out of. And what's more important than finding out what the fuck that is?
Preach.
You know what I mean?
That's why it kills me when people say, "Oh, you worship science," and
there's nothing.
I do.
Scientists don't do any, like, scientists
so do you, if you think about
don't know anything.
Talking about Carl Sagan is my Jesus Christ. What are you talking about? Fuck out of here.
All praise Carl.
All praise to Carl, dog. What are you talking about?
They try to make it seem like we sit here and like just believe everything that, like, no, scientists are sitting here, they're making sure that they're right by trying to figure out how they could be wrong.
Right.
You know,
I tell my friend all the time because he likes to assert, scientists always just say they're right and yada yada yada. I always go, nah, science, you only get to a point of merit when you and everybody else in your field cannot prove you wrong.
Right, and they will try.
Everybody's trying.
Yeah, it's like it's blood sport. Everyone's looking to take out the top guy. If you can prove Einstein wrong, you become the new Einstein. Like it's as simple as that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is like you can fight my opinion, you can fight my assertions, but you can't fight data. If the data matches up, that's it. That's it. There's no arguing with it, and you gotta go, well, shit. I guess you did the top call, and then you tip your hat to that person. But philosophical discussions can go on, ad infinitum for forever. But it's like with me, this is another situation. So when I was first starting to study physics, and I was in college, and this guy walks up to me, and I think he might have been just getting into like theoretical physics or something like that. And we're having this weird conversation because I'm general, like I'm not theoretical, I'm not quantum, that stuff. And he's talking about particle physics, and I'm like, I just don't fucking get it. And we're laughing about how lost we are, and it's a great thing because we realize how much more there is to learn. And this guy walks up, and he's telling us, he's like, I don't understand you guys. You guys sit around and talk about stuff you can't see, you can't feel, you can't touch, and you'll never understand. I said, well, that's where you're wrong. I said, you're standing in it right now, bro. You were feeling it, you were touching it. You just can't understand that you were surrounded by it. You're fucking made of it, and you're not curious about that. He said, nah, I'm not physics. I said, bro, the fact that you just wrote, you were able to hold your hand out to me and it didn't fly up into the fucking air and explode into 1,000 pieces tells me that physics is working the way it's supposed to, right? He was like, yeah. I was like, well, then there we go. I said, what? You don't know what you don't know, and that's the most dangerous person in the room usually, because they're gonna assume they know everything.
I just think people are afraid that their little fantasy world is gonna get crushed.
You know what I like to bring up when people make those types of assertions. My favorite theory in all of physics, Pauli's exclusion principle. You know that one?
Yeah.
I definitely don't.
I'm sorry. Let's hear from everybody.
For those that don't know, the Pauli's exclusion principle basically states that electrons can't occupy the same energy space. So whenever energy is inserted into a system, anything you do, rubbing your hand, strike a lighter, whatever, sunburn, whatever, the electrons have to readjust accordingly. They can't be in the same state. So every electron in the universe is shifting at all times, and they all know they and they have to be. They have to know where they all at, so they don't be in the same energy state.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if anybody's ever been in a physics class, I'm sure your professor or teacher has done the whole "you're not really touching anything" thing, right?
Yes. I remember that.
You remember that, right? You remember he's like there's like an infinitesimally small space between everything that you touch, all the time.
I definitely remember that.
Yeah, there's an energy. So like, if that doesn't intrigue you in some way, that's okay. But allow me and allow people like me to explore that. And you can't debate. It isn't even. I'm not going to make a huge statement about this, but you can't debate me about physics, about science, about engineering while using the tools that physics, science, and engineering has given you. Like you're on a PC right now. You're using a phone.
That's the part that makes me laugh really hard. I mean, like you're sitting here on an advanced piece of equipment talking about science isn't real. Like what?
Yeah, it's dope though. So I was gonna ask this question as well. Do you think, as far as being people who have a very heavy, you and Greydon especially, people who have a very heavy emphasis on science, on physics, do you find it gratifying? Like, do you ever go back and listen to your own music and go, you know what? I know it was difficult because this is my own path, my own trail. Do you ever find that that ruling thing ever becomes like, all right, it was fucking worth it. It was worth all the criticism. It was worth all the you can't make this work. It was worth trying to rack your brain and try to take this very big pie and try to smash it into like a little space. You know, because music's a small space compared to physics.
Honest, for me,
yeah,
I really don't care. I do this because I love it.
That's the right answer.
Yeah.
So whatever, and I don't care what anybody's saying. I'm always going to be doing this.
Yeah, I'm a little different with it. I think my approach changed because when I was first making music, it was therapy for me, right? Because I had a different way I saw the world. Like obviously, people who know my history know that I was a theist growing up. I believed in gods and all that type of stuff. So the way that I viewed the world was different. When that changed in my mid-20s, it allowed me to change focuses and change the content and what I was talking about. I no longer needed to use my music for therapy. I could use it to educate people on what I was being educated in.
Yeah.
So as far as the criticism, I think people are always going to claim that it's a gimmick, right? People who on the outside are always going to be like, oh, it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick. He's just doing this for these type of people. And to be honest with you, they're right. I was doing this for people who love physics, who love science, who love engineering, mathematics, chemistry, computer technology. That's who I did it for. And if people wanted to call that a gimmick and I got criticism for it back then, I think it was worth it. Shit.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do, I mean, if you're gonna do, if you're gonna do something ad nauseum, at least let it be something productive like that. I mean, you got people out here talking about guns and drugs and shit every fucking song, so
And
they can't
hella
really.
average and hella average rappers being celebrated like they're ill or something. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's we're living in the motherfucking. This is Mad Max out here and shit, dog. A
Yeah,
piece
real
of
shit.
shit. A piece of shit look like a ham sandwich right now, dog. It's crazy. You know, so I can't critique nobody's favorite rappers and shit, none of that shit. So, you know, that's why it's worth it. That's exactly why it's worth it.
I'm glad you said that, man. It's interesting because like talking about fusion reactors, gravitational waves, and like launching humanity kicking and fucking screaming into the next wave of the future. And if you look at any mark in history, any bellwether situation, point in history, it mirrors this very one right here. There is I mean, and in some ways we're experiencing a renaissance. If you think about it, because every single renaissance is led up to and ends in wars. It has some sort of some sort of industry that's being created, and on the front of that, there are always the detractors and naysayers who are profiting off of the status quo. Now, I always say that's great. That means if people aren't trying to hit you every time you move or trying to pull you back, that means you're not fucking moving. That means you're not progressing, and they can't see you if they're behind you. So I think that's a very good thing. And honestly, they're actually doing a press conference if anybody's interested on Monday afternoon. Obviously, China's a day or whatever, a lot of hours ahead of us. So if anybody is interested, I would definitely keep an eye on Google. There is going to be a press conference. They're going to be actually releasing a lot of information on how the fusion reactor works, what they're going to be doing going forward, because this isn't it. I mean, they're going to get grants, funding, all kinds of shit. I'm sure there's going to be a Nobel Prize somewhere in this for somebody. So this isn't the last you're going to hear of it. I mean, and never mind the applications, because that's decades into the future, and that's grants, and that's everything. Just building a reactor. I can't even imagine how, because the people were nervous about CERN when it's miles below ground. I mean, can you imagine a fucking fusion reactor? You know how many protests are going to be? Oh, this is the end of the world. Yeah, right. It's making a mini black hole. No, the fuck it isn't. But it's, I mean, it's like it's amazing how Google has it's made people who at first took another tactic and said, no, you just can't do that. But now they have a preponderance of misinformation to back them. You know what I mean? Because at any point in time, if they don't like something just because it doesn't sound right to them, they don't understand it, they can hit Google for somebody who has the same line of ignorant thinking, but is probably a lot more articulate about that stupidity. And then they argue.
That's an interesting point. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, in some ways, the age of information is sort of brought
itself.
Yeah, like anything else.
Yeah.
Because we weren't taught how to falsify information, and therefore, most of the people who have access to this information who don't have the education on how to falsify certain ideas and subjects, it's like they're not going to know fucking anything from anything else.
But on the bright side, of it, we got warriors out there like you and Gary, you know what I'm saying, using your weapons, your words, your music to counter that shit, and people latch onto it. Like for instance, Gary, Gifted Anomaly, he put out a track about that whole flat Earth theory thing that B.O.B. What made you feel obligated to make that song, man?
It's dope, by the way.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
My head exploded like 3 times, I think.
Yeah, no one wants you to go Super Saiyan on anyone. You did. That's not what I'm saying that you did, but it was damn close.
Yeah.
What really made that happen was I sort of heard about it, but like I said, I'm in the cave, so I don't keep up with nothing while I'm writing like this. But I caught wind of it, saw it pop up on my Facebook page. So I'm like, what's going on with somebody? And then I saw his nephew. I saw him drop his nephew's track, and I heard the track.
Before you go any further, just for the people who don't know what we're talking about, what was the situation?
Oh, so B.O.B. rapper, airplanes and shooting stars, that guy.
Yeah.
He went on Twitter and started professing that the Earth was flat and using evidence
Yeah.
He's a backup. That's claims,
Sometimes.
which opened him up on Twitter and
Mhm.
and caught the attention of Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, who then went on to do what he does and debunk him, yada yada yada.
Rather
BLB wasn't hearing
colorful.
that and decided I'm not. Now this is the way I was in the cave for. I'm not sure who dropped the track first, whether Neil dropped the track or BLB dropped the track. But tracks was dropped.
BLB definitely dropped first.
Okay, so BLB. Oh, that makes it even worse. BLB dropped the track. So Neil responded with his nephew, and when I heard that song, I just thought he needed a better rebuttal. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
I thought that he needed a stronger rebuttal. Like, you want to go hip hop with it, like, yeah. And it gave me a chance to vent, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it worked on all fronts.
like I looked at it that way, and also I looked at it like I love science to death, and I don't have heroes, but if I did, Dr. Tyson would be one of them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where I'm from, you don't let nobody disrespect your OG, yo. You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't happen. Yeah.
Like when they were keeping it on Twitter, I ain't interested. That's his space. He got the papers. I ain't got my papers yet. Pop with it. It's like, nah. I had to say something.
Yeah, like how does a person even end up believing that bullshit?
Well, it's funny. It's like I always feel like when people talk about the rabbit hole, I think of it in like very literal terms. When you first go down in a hole, first thing you see is nothing. And you're like, well, shit, there's got to be something down there. And you drop a couple things and then you hear it tinker around. Well, shit's a little deeper than I thought. Next thing you know, your whole goddamn body's in there. And next thing you know, dirt starts falling over your head and you're buried. You don't even remember the sunlight anymore. So I think that's exactly what happened. He got into this Hotep bullshit, about us being gods and all this. And then that slowly evolved into this antiquated view of flat Earth and everything being false that science and man had taught us. That man had taught us. Not forgetting never mind. I'm not gonna get too deep into it. But
no, get deep, my nigga.
That's a rabbit hole in itself.
Get deep, man.
I mean,
it's a show, man.
Well, I don't want to I know we have two other guests. So I don't want to go on ad nauseum. But what upset me about that whole situation and what made me extremely happy about Gary's was that B.O.B. didn't even really make an argument in the song. By the way, the song was terrible.
Thank you.
Actually, but it's terrible. It's pretty bad. But he didn't really have a rebuttal. I mean, excuse me. He didn't have an argument so much of this is how things are, but I'm not going to go too deep of it because I don't really believe it myself. And you could tell that it was tinged with that through and through. But I think when someone is challenged, especially in this day and age, when someone's reputation is based solely upon one statement, and you can't back off that statement because outside of the science world, backing off the statement shows it is seen as a sign of weakness. So he couldn't very well say, well, you know what, I could be mistaken, but this is what I believe. Prove me wrong. It was more of you guys are blind, mice, sheeple. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And then the song portrayed that very thing. There was absolutely no evidence whatsoever in that song. It was literally a reactionary sort of, I feel hurt, I feel stung by you guys making fun of me, and I'm going to make a song because I got a fucking studio downstairs in my house. That's basically what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, that's accurate, I'd say. That's definitely accurate.
and what pisses me off is that Lupe chimed in. I think that's the thing that pissed me off the most.
Oh, I missed that. I would have included him too. Damn.
He said I dabble in quantum physics. No, the fuck you don't. You dabble and make weed if you think you do.
What was he saying? Like, was he saying that was he supporting B.O.B. or the?
Absolutely. He was talking about the horizon, and
God.
I actually asked him. I said, are you aware that the horizon dips 8 inches for every mile? So even if you're 16 miles back, it's an imperceptible change. I said you literally would have to be standing like in the exosphere in order to see it. I said, so the fact that the shadow of the moon has a curve to it, does it mean anything to you? He was like, well, I said, well, how about this? How about every other fucking planet is round? And that was not really round, but it's, you know what I mean. But he was like, well, what you don't understand is that our planet differs than every other planet. I said, then we shouldn't call it planets then. It wouldn't be a planet. It would be a sliver of a planet, right? He was like, no. I said, well, all right. And I was like, well, how do we sustain polar caps? He's like, no. I was like, well, have you ever spun a fucking pizza pie? You see what happens with fucking, if you put an ant on top of a fucking record and you spin that record at a very high speed, what happens to the ant? Right? Well, I said, you couldn't. He's like, wow, well, this. And he said, well, I dabble in quantum physics. No, you dabble in being a fucking pretentious idiot is what you fucking dabble in. And I see, but the thing is that pseudo intellectuals, for the most part, that like live the internet, they want to be intelligent, right? And that's the difference between a lot of people who are sitting right here. We have shouldered the burden of it our entire lives. We've had to suffer a lot because people don't understand a lot of the concepts that we're trying to push forward. And I'm not trying to call you, and see, for someone, if you can always tell when someone's insecure, because if it sounds like I'm trying to insult you when I'm literally trying to have a conversation with you, that tells me that we are playing on two totally separate levels here.
So question, and maybe a little bit of a devil's advocate position for me. Do we do anyone any favors by addressing such idiotic assertions, or are we righteous in our attacking these people and
a spark becomes a fire, man. You know
what's that?
A spark becomes a fire. You know, it's one thing if you want to burn your own fucking house down, then you put your house on top of a mountain that's not surrounded by a goddamn village. But if you have 100,000 followers, 300,000 followers, impressionable people with malleable brains that don't know the difference between bullshit and realness, then someone has to address it. There has to be counterpoints made. And even if you fail, you made the attempt. There's no certainty that there isn't an aspiring young physicist that isn't sitting there that hasn't had any scientific training that isn't 9, 10, 11 years old that just likes B.O.B. music that isn't dissuaded from pursuing a field in science based solely upon one man's idiotic assertions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Gary, what do you think about that, man?
I mean, I while he was saying that, I just had this whole train of thought going on in my head of like, this is all facts and public knowledge. So when you say something that's demonstrably false, like, be ready to be publicly shamed. Like,
right.
You opened yourself up for it. Don't be mad at anybody else. Like,
Great. I know you kind of have a different position on that. What do you think?
Everybody's great. Everybody's
Everything's great. Everybody's smart. Everyone's a genius. It's all good.
That some people wish that's how everyone addressed them, and that's the sad part about it. You know, people can't handle the truth, unfortunately, and that's something we really need to address.
Do you think that activism has a place in popular hip hop anymore?
Do you mean in my opinion or
yes,
the popular
opinion? Well, I'm not talking about popular opinion. But
okay.
Do you think activism, as it stands within any realm, is something that has a place in hip hop? Not that it can.
Absolutely. I mean, hip hop came from, a place of activism. Really, like it was a rebellion against, circumstances and societal circumstances. People who came from poverty and out of these inner cities who were trying to, have their voice heard. Yeah, it started off as party music mostly, but that was a way of that was people's way of relieving themselves of that stress, and then it evolved into, well, shit, fuck this party shit. I'm mad about what's going on, and and then you had groups in the early '90s, late '80s, like well, even before that, we had Africa Bambaataa, and then Poison Clan and all that. We had Public Enemy and KRS-One. It's roots are in activism. So I think that's something that we've kind of sort of gotten away from. It's starting to come back a little bit. A lot of people, some people like Kendrick Lamar, some don't, but I applaud him for at least trying to inject something like that into hip hop again. It's because it's sorely needed. I wasn't a huge fan of To Pimp a Butterfly. I think it's overrated, but I applaud his effort. You know what I'm saying?
He's trying.
We just need more talented people like Greydon, like Gary, like you, Evil, putting more music out there, that has more substance, and being activists with your music. You know what I'm saying? That's what we need right now. I think of out of every medium out there, that's up out there. Like aside from movies, like music speaks to people the most. You know what I'm
I
saying?
would, I would, I would echo your statement with one slight caveat,
What's
with
that?
one slight change. I would say if you're an activist, like
Right. Yeah. If you're
you
not
listen
well
to music.
informed on what you're talking about, then you're just gonna end up confusing people.
Well, I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm thinking along the lines of that. I know there are a lot of people who have these thoughts, who think that way, who want to speak out on subjects, but
Mm.
they're dissuaded by everybody going, "You ain't gonna get no deal like that," so they don't never
Right.
write nothing. They stuck writing mediocre shit, like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess
and they
that's a
end up
matter of motivation.
down all together because they ain't make, they didn't become some rap star they thought that was
Hmm.
supposed to.
So
Always just about doing what you want to do.
did you know that there's a mathematical relationship called a scaling law? Um, it's basically how they describe the elaborate folds of a person's brain, and it's also similar to crumpling a paper. Like you could literally apply that same exact law to how every crumple of paper is. Now, I say that to say this: all these things that we're talking about, Einstein's gravitational waves, fusion reactors, there are some direct correlations and applications in the real world, and there are some that we can't even see the implications of. You know what I mean? The internet came about because someone wanted to send a note to himself halfway across the building, and he created it on internet. So I say that to say that this very thing, seeing what data points are applied to brain mass or the total area of a cortex when it's exposed to that outer surface of a brain and brain mass, those things you talk about are can be applied to things like what they call genetic mass pointing, where you can say, all right, how do we keep a person who has some kind of autoimmune disease that can at some point attack their brain? How can we code the genome to say after this point of spreading, stop? You know what I mean? It's those little things that people don't see applications to because you never stop asking a question. And that question leads to another question, and it leads to a whole series of branching off questions. And you go to someone in another field and say, "Hey, I found something compelling. This isn't my field of expertise, but what do you think about this set of data?" And when that data is passed around, which is why science is so great, when you get to the end point, you're like, "Holy shit, we just created something that wasn't here before. So we had no idea it even existed." And I think that's one of the greatest thing of all. And like I was talking like a few weeks ago about the movie Lucy, which I have a whole lot of problems with that movie. But I mean,
You're not
outside of it,
brother, and I've had too many conversations with too many people about that movie where I've had to correct too much shit.
but it's not the only movie that says that. There was another movie where Ben Affleck was in as well, where he took a pill or something and it did something very similar to his brain. And okay, I like I always ask people, I say, is there something vestigial in your body that you think literally is just sitting there, like languishing away? They're like, well, no. I don't think that there is. I said, so what makes you think there's 90% that's sitting literally that takes up 25% of all your energy that's doing fucking nothing? It's just sitting there, just chilling. Like what? I don't know. It kills me sometimes, man. I don't understand.
I think a lot of it is just people magical thinking. They want to be able to do extra shit. People can't accept what seems like a mundane universe.
You think
Like,
yeah, not accepting your limitations.
yeah,
That's why the Omniverse is so exciting.
exactly.
Because the universes are boring as fuck.
And very predictable in some cases. Shit gets worn down. Oh man, this is great.
I do have an idea I want to run by you guys off air though.
Okay.
All right.
What's up?
That's
Like,
cool.
I have a friend who always comes to me like with is this real? Is this real? And he gets to talking about people floating and doing all this type of stuff. I'm like, brother, we could do all that with technology, just not yet.
It's coming. It's
We
coming.
can't do.
And it always starts with the question of, I wonder if. You know, it's like the person who invented that new way of collecting trash out of the ocean. I mean, that started with, and I
Well,
wonder if
when you were speaking, you reminded me of a story. It was just, I guess, something akin to Alchemist or something way back when was playing with electricity, brought it to a king, and said, "Can you fund me? I wanna research this. Look at this." And the king goes, "What does it do?" And he goes, "I don't know."
I love
Like
it.
your whole argument was like a plea for basic research because you never know what comes out of it.
It's like the guy who made that box, and he said it just opens and closes over and over again. Every time you open the box, it checks itself. And like to some people, it seems like a useless device, but to an engineer, to a physicist, they're like, I wonder what type of applications this could possibly have. It may not be the actual box itself. It may be the the mechanics therein, or the timing, or the ratios, or something. So yeah, this is man going all day about that shit. I guess we should wrap up in a minute. I said.
Yeah, we could do that. You seem to be having some technical difficulties anyway. But it's all good though. But before we go, let's let our guests get their promos in. I'll start with you, Gary. What kind of projects do you have coming up? Projects you got out that you want to let people know about? What's up?
Well, you can find anything I've already put out on, giftedanomaly.bandcamp.com. Other than that, let's say, I got a lot of something coming at you pretty soon within the next couple of months. I ain't gonna reveal what it is, but I got a lot of shit about to drop. So
Yeah, you don't want to look out.
okay.
You don't want to look out for that because this guy's got bars. Like he has
Bars.
this track on my on this YouTube channel actually that I put up 15 minutes straight. This motherfucker's rhyming.
I love that song.
And
There's a part two.
and yeah, he only punched him maybe once. It's crazy.
There's a part two coming.
Part two to Kamehameha?
There's a part two coming.
Man.
Yeah, just
I can't wait to hear it.
find me on SoundCloud Nation, bandcamp.com, Facebook, Gifted Anomaly.
Bet. All right, cool. Okay, and now Greydon, I'm gonna go ahead and say just drop probably, if not the greatest, one of the greatest hip hop albums you've ever heard in your life.
Absolutely.
Like no question about it. I don't care. Fuck your opinion. If you don't agree with me, you could kiss my ass. That album is a certified classic, and it's 3 fucking discs. Type 3 Omniverse. Get that shit.
Fucking favorite.
I mean,
So I was actually gonna promote Type 4.
you can do that, but I'm gonna promote Type 3, goddamn. So yeah, get that shit. Okay, go ahead.
So, Type 4 is gonna have 64 songs, 1 song for every space on the chessboard. It's gonna come in 2 parts, each part having double discs, each disc having 16 tracks for 16 bars, represents 16 bars. And there will be the finalization of almost every legacy song I've ever done.
Wow.
So the idea I want to tell you guys about the idea for 6th off air because I don't want to spoil it. But the idea for 6th, I think, is one of the best ideas I've ever had.
That's fucking saying a lot, though. That's fucking saying a lot.
That's frightening, brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
6th, I think 6th will. I mean, I don't like, you know me, I don't like hyping stuff up, but I really enjoy the idea for 6th because it really holds people accountable. That's all. I'll tell you guys off there.
You've got me in my anxious chair swivel, dog.
Yeah. We'll go into it off air, but definitely I feel like it holds a lot of people accountable.
I like that.
Absolutely, and I also want to put it out there. Aside from the bajillion other projects I got coming out, me and Greydon will be working on the next Versus project really soon. Like that and a few other projects are on the top of my list of priorities to get done. Ryukin Versus comes out, if not this year, then next year. Like absolutely. So yeah, y'all need to watch out for that. Round 2, Dark Cadeau.
Absolutely.
So yeah, y'all definitely check that out. You can also get the last Ryukin Versus album on ryukinvs.bandcamp.com. That's still available for download and all that.
Hell
And
yeah.
with that, I will say, oh, Evo, did you have anything you wanted
My SoundCloud is down here. Go if you haven't already. Go listen to House of the Rising Suns, my collaboration and tribute to Nina Simone, one of my favorite artists of all time.
Fantastic too, bro.
Hey, you
Thank you,
made you made Lionel Saxa go watch that documentary.
to?
Yeah,
Dude, you have no
yeah.
idea how happy it makes me when someone says, I had no idea who Nina Simone was, but you made me go listen to her entire discography. That is what
No,
I wanted.
she wants to do something with you about Nina Simone. So
Hell yeah, I'm always
Yo,
up for it, man. Just tell her to hit me up. I'm always ready, man. She was amazing, dude. I even get chills when I say her name, dude. That's how much
yeah,
I love that woman.
yeah.
she was amazing.
She's pretty special.
She's unbelievable. Also, I have a new project coming out. It's called well, I'm working with the title, but it's called Of Ink and Stone, basically. And if you ever look up what Ink Stone is, it'll give you an idea of what the project's about. Got 3 songs done already. Most of the beats are going to be by Zilla as usual. This was a lot different, probably, than anything I've ever done before. I try to flex every single musical melodic fucking muscle, and it's a lot more dense than any of my other projects. So this is for my hardcore fan base. They've been asking me by the hundreds to do something like this. So you want that super evil and time my fucking cable.
Yeah.
And also, you may or may not hear something from So Authentic as a collective soon.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, May,
May or may not. More on the May side, But yeah, man. Absolutely, Voltron. Let's do it. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the GATaca Cypher again. Everybody who is a reoccurring viewer or a new one, thank you. And if you dig it, subscribe. And we'll see y'all on the next show, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Come on, bitch.
One.